The Michael Jackson biopic just made $218 million in one weekend. It broke every record for a music film in history. People were literally standing up in IMAX theaters singing along. And while Stevie Wonder, Magic Johnson, Usher, Martin Lawrence, Raven Simon, and Chance the Rapper all showed up to celebrate, there's an entire list of major celebrities who have said absolutely nothing. Not one post, not one congratulations, not one acknowledgement that the biggest cultural event of the year even happened. And when you look at who these people are and what they've said about Michael Jackson in the past, the silence tells you everything. Let's start with Oprah Winfrey. In 2019, Oprah personally hosted the After Neverland special on HBO. She sat on stage with Michael's accusers in front of a live studio audience filled with survivors. She dedicated a full hour of her platform to the allegations. She said on camera that the documentary transcends Michael Jackson and called it a scourge on humanity. Mert fans went after her hard for it. She stood by every word. Now it's 2026. The biggest celebration of a black artist in cinema history is happening. A $200 million film about the most iconic entertainer who ever lived just shattered box office records. Oprah Winfrey, a woman who built her entire brand on uplifting black excellence and black storytelling, has posted nothing. No Instagram, no tweet, no interview mention, no acknowledgement that this film even exists. You can interpret that however you want, but the silence from someone who has an opinion on everything is impossible to ignore. Tom Hanks. At the 2020 Golden Globes, Ricky Gervais roasted the entire room, calling out Hollywood's hypocrisy, their lecturing, their disconnect from real audiences. The cameras caught Tom Hanks looking visibly uncomfortable in the crowd. His reaction went viral. It became one of the most shared reaction images on the internet for months. Gervais later said Hanks looked like he felt above the jokes, like they didn't apply to him. Fast forward to 2026, the Michael biopic is breaking every record, audiences are celebrating, and Tom Hanks has said nothing, not a word. For a man who is usually the first to congratulate fellow filmmakers and celebrate cinematic achievements, the silence stands out. Dan Reed, the director of Leaving Neverland, isn't silent, he's loud, and he's furious. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter this month, he called the biopic a complete whitewash filled with complete lies. He called director Antoine Fuqua nasty. He said the film will leave a new generation of young viewers believing Michael was a very talented performer who was rather nice to children, and he called that a travesty of the truth. He pointed out that Wade Robson and James Safechuck have never earned a single dollar from their allegations, while the Jackson estate is now making hundreds of millions from a film that erases those allegations entirely. He even compared Jackson to some of the worst figures in modern history. Whether you agree with Reed or not, the man is clearly shaken by how successful this film has become. And he's preparing a third documentary to film inside the courtroom when Robson and Safechuck's civil trial begins in November. Then there are the critics as a whole. The film has a 38% score on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience score is 97%. That 59-point gap is one of the largest in modern cinema history. Critics called the film sanitist, shallow, and a greatest hits reel with no depth. Slate said watching it feels like being gaslighted. The Andover Review called it a sizzle reel for investors. And audiences responded by spending $218 million in a single weekend. The critics didn't just get it wrong, they got publicly humiliated by the audience. Their reviews moved 0 tickets. Their opinions didn't matter. And for an industry that has historically relied on critical approval to validate their work, that kind of irrelevance is devastating. And then there's Michael's own daughter. Paris Jackson read the first draft of the script. She gave the producers detailed notes. They ignored every single one of them. She called the film full of inaccuracies. She called Hollywood a fantasy land. She said she prefers honesty over sales. She skipped both the Berlin and Los Angeles premieres, not by accident, on purpose. Coleman Domingo, who plays Joe Jackson in the film, then went on record saying Paris was very much supportive. Paris immediately contradicted him publicly. Somebody wasn't telling the truth, and Paris made sure the world knew it wasn't her. Meanwhile, the people who actually love Michael's legacy showed up. Stevie Wonder was there. Magic Johnson was there. Usher was there. Martin Lawrence, Raven Simon, Chance the Rapper, all there. The people who stayed home, the critics, the accusers' advocates, the Hollywood gatekeepers, they made a choice. And that choice told you exactly where they stand. Not against the film, against the audience. Against the 218 million reasons that prove the world still loves Michael Jackson. And that's the part they can't accept. Subscribe, because this conversation isn't over.